Well, now, this is Pops out here with a little bit of heat and some sci-fi going on. And I got some, parts cleaning stuff that's water-based, got to go in the house now. I'm out here on David Bradley's Superpower, belongs to Ingram Hill Farms. Now, I was trying to figure out what was going on with the clutch. It wouldn't work properly. In fact, there was a real problem with it. And I figured out what the problem was. It was simple adjustment, but the thing had to be lubed, so I tore it all apart when I figured out how the mechanism worked. I went on YouTube and found a bunch of guys on there that showed how the pieces work and told you this, told you that, and a bunch of other stuff, and then I just kind of started winging it. Underneath that fork, there are two pads. They're bolt here and bolt on the bottom, and the two pads sit in a collar, in a groove. The collar has a step in it. Inside the collar are two washers that slide right through it. It didn't make sense to me. One collar is tapered, but this collar also has a hole in it. You put a bunch of bearings in there. And because there's a taper on one of the collars or washers, and the other one is flat, the ball bearings, when the larger part of the step here is over the bearings, it's not engaged. When you push it over and put the step over it in the smaller diameter, the balls get squeezed into the conical washer area, and it pushes it back plate here against the pulley, and the pulley against this plate. There's two fiber discs, one on each side. Works pretty good now that I've figured out how it works. But the problem I had was this puppy was pushed up against the back side of the pulley. I'm like, that's not right. It would work, but it wouldn't work right. So I was trying to figure out. At first I thought I had to put a stop on the handle, just let it turn over, but something's not quite right. The old guys knew what they were doing. Well, this is a freakish mechanism, but it works. Anyway, as it pushes everything out here against this plate's adjustable. Now, what they don't tell you very well in the videos is this centerpiece here is pinned onto the shaft. And there's a flat right here underneath my set screw. Is it there? No, set screw's here. There's a flat underneath this set screw. However, there's a flat about here. Yeah, there's 6 flats all the way around. But it's adjusted in 12ths of a turn. How does it do that? Well, this hole here where the set screw is it locked for the setting that I want in the clutch for clearance now. And this one is half a flat off. So if I put a set screw in here, it'd be on threads, and to damage the threads, you wouldn't be able to turn this well. You have to know where it is. But this sucker's threaded, and you can turn it in and out to change your adjustment. It has to be pretty tight. What happens is this comes up. Oops. Yeah. My rod's in a funny place. Hang on. I'll show you how this thing actually functions. If I can. There we go. I just have to put that back in the lever later. I was trying to figure out how to put a stop on the lever, all this other crap. Something just hit me that, the old guys knew what they were doing. Something's wrong here. So I had to understand the operation. There's the back side of the collar right there. The two washers, the straight washer and the conical washer in there, and the ball bearings all around it. It comes up and it stops right about there. Then, click. What did that do? See, this is free now, but it doesn't go back where it did. Well, that's because the back side of this washer here is smaller diameter than the inside over here, and that pushes the balls down into the conical and the flat washer, takes up the space, and pushes everything out. Now this whole thing is a solid assembly. You can move this, nothing happens. Now, click, there you go. Comes up and stops, click, it's engaged, disengaged, and then there you are. So my main thing to say here is that every single video I was on, one of them said put a set screw in both holes. Do not. The one guy says put it in there, but don't put it in tighter, you damage the threads. Don't put a set screw in there at all. It's not needed. Just put a set screw in after you adjust it so it works properly. Find the flats, which one is the closest flat, and you put the set screw in where these flat areas are. It's hard to see. I don't think I can even get a... you can... Yeah, there you go. You can see the flat highs and the lows, the flats. It's got grease in there, so there, nice. Yeah, it's going to keep it's pretty close, so it doesn't know what to do. So anyway, I figured I'd toss that in there for you folks to learn as well as I did. Yeah, 2¼ horse Continental. The carburetor I've seen since I was a kid, and we thought it was old denim. We were in junior high, two of us, and we traded. Tom Hinton, you out there anywhere? We traded a lawnmower for a go-kart. The old man thought I was getting ripped off. And I said, "No, I'm happy with it." "You sure?" "Yeah." And just for the fun of it, I wanted to enjoy the go-kart now and then. Tom had a 3½ horse to put on it. The old man just, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, that's what I wanted, a 2-cycle lawnmower like you have." "Well, it doesn't run." I said, "Yeah, I know. I know how to make it run." The old man freaked out. I said, "Well, okay, just to be sure." Well, I got into school and said something to somebody. "Well, Hinton's running around there." I said, "Yeah, I got a really good deal on that thing." He said, "Well, he's running around telling everybody he ripped you off." I said, "Really?" I said, "What a nice guy." Old memories, but that carburetor goes back to that old lawn. I can't even remember what the lawnmower was. It was the Tecumseh 2-stroke, and it had that style carburetor on it, Tillotson. This is an M45 something. I forgot this. I don't think I'd be able to read it here. Yeah, there it is. MT25 something or other. A. So the points I recognized. They're underneath the cover here where the governor is. The governor has a carbon rod in it. It's all in there tucked in tight together with a condenser. And I've seen the points and condenser in a tractor. I just can't remember which one. I think they're Delco. They have a screw on each side instead of a post and a single screw. But I got a cheap HIPAA spark plug in there, made it run. I got this thing working, but that's in tough shape. We're going to have to figure out a different way to get an air filter on this thing. He's not going to use it that often, so we may not even, if it's only used in the winter, you don't even need an air filter. The air is much cleaner. Got the fins cleaned out, has one oil change. Probably I'll get it warmed up and change the oil here another time as well. But we even got the original float bowl, the original sediment bowl to work, and the same steel line, which I was going to replace it, and then I thought, you know what, if everything works, let's leave it. Tank's in nice shape. It's been stored inside almost its entire life. The only thing I had to do, there was a couple of things I had to do that were funky. I can't remember what one was. Oh, the screen on the other side, and the other was the throttle. And the throttle here, I had to bring down a bolt here. It was actually up there. You can almost see two holes there by the plastic handle. I had to shorten that much of the cable off of there so it would work. And then I found a way to run it almost exact same route as it did before. And now, some of you are going to harass me about this screen over here. Why didn't you put it inside? Well, putting it inside would have been a better idea. I give you that. But it'll work for starting. And why didn't I put it inside? Well, because I had the governor, the throttle, and all of that adjusted so it was running beautiful. 3,000 RPM. It was idling around 2,000. The little thing was running sweet. And I start monkeying with all of that, I'd have to reset the whole throttle thing. I just said, you know, since it's going to end up in the same place whether inside or out, and it doesn't really matter for functionality, I left it on the outside. Later on, when everything's working right and we scope this thing out, then we'll call it good. The gearbox has the original oil in it at the original level, looking excellent. But I'm going to check that again after I run it a few times, because if there's water in the bottom, it's going to stir it up. What do we got here? Oh, look at that. Lighting. It keeps changing on me. I was wondering if it just pops up and disappears. Oh, the other one I had to do something with was the choke. Choke is here so you can start it with the hood down. Let me tell you, that took me a long time to get that puppy working right. Long time. But I did. It was rusted and I got some of this. This is good stuff. I got it by accident. A guy named Brian Beagle, who used to be a construction guy, actually excavation and such. Kimball Midwest, Ultra Guard, Extreme Penetrating Grease. Nice stuff. It's on both cables. It works very well. So anyway, that's where I've been at this point. I got her working, and hopefully I'll be able to get it to Bill here after a while. That's still, I could probably find a way to put a recoil on it, but you know, the last few times I ran this thing, it started so well. After 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, I think it was. It fired up after a couple of pulls and sometimes only one pull. I just thought to myself, maybe we'll leave well enough alone. Besides that, there's some things that they're just nicer when they're original. If this was something that was a daily use, I would highly recommend putting a recoil on there, because this gets tedious. But back in the day, so to speak, in the 50s, this was a nice unit, and that's what the common starting was. I've got 2 Briggs & Stratton cast iron engines back in there with that style. Someday I'm going to take the time to tear them apart and see what's going on. They got 3, 4, 5 engines on the shelf there. I got a bunch of tractors that need repair. I don't have enough money to fix them all. But I got a bunch of nice stuff to work on until I die. That is my sweetheart. It was given to me with a blown engine. They thought there was a lot of other trouble with it too. Took a while, a couple of years, got the engine together, fired up and running. That's my garden plowing tractor and my snow plowing tractor. Not the main one. I've got a back blade for the Ferguson TO35. Nice machine. I hate to tell you Ferguson guys, I love my Fergie, but the Ford's better. Live hydraulics is more important than live PTO. But this old girl's done very, very well for me over the years. I heard a knock when I first fired it up, and I said, you know, it's probably the clutch. 20 years later, it was the clutch. In case anybody's wondering, at least half its life it has had 10W30 synthetic motor oil in the Kohler engine. You heard me right, 10W30 synthetic for at least half of the oil changes I've done on it. But 1540 natural, 10W30 conventional, etc., etc. Yeah, I say natural, conventional, interchangeable. And it's had 10W30 synthetic in it. So for you naysayers, you're fools to say otherwise. It does work and works well, and I've got 2 decades on this one. Well, I got to get back in the house. It's getting colder out here, and mission accomplished. Now what I have to do is that funky little handle there just has pieces of wire holding it on the bar, and it can flop around. It doesn't matter that it does, but it's one of those things where, you know, I'd like to tidy that up a little bit before it goes. There's something missing there, but I haven't been able to get a parts breakdown to find out. Yep, there's my case block there. It's going to need some work. That's a little mini diesel head. There's sleeves for the block. And the boring bar that I got to do a little bit of work on to get that in the block to clean up the counter bores and get the sleeve in. I hand shaved the top of the block with a flat, just pretty much 80 grit sandpaper and a flattened steel block that I flattened on a platen sander and then checked its surface. It's less than 1/1000 it was off, so I ground that puppy down by hand. Now I got to make sure the counter bores match the top of the block and the sleeves. Right now some of the sleeves have stand out like 6, 7, and 8 thousandths, which on a newer, stronger block would be good, but on an old duck like that they're prone to cracking, I had to fix 2 or 3 cracks in there anyway. So why force it and get it down to about 2 thousandths? Well, anyway, this is Pops. We're hanging out here, listening to a little sci-fi, and getting a little bit of heat here. And the wind's howling out there. And I'm going to have to go out and get some firewood again. You folks be good.